That's all right, thanks. I'll use that as a... Very good. All right, team, ready to kick off when you are?
1 second.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, Morena, good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm joined by Malcolm Fleming, Chief Executive of the New Zealand Certified Builders. And Certified Builders has been a really important stakeholder. They're a very credible and constructive voice in the industry in general, but also more particularly with the discussions we've had around the consumer protections in terms of liability. So I want to thank you, Malcolm, personally for that, as well as you and your team. You've provided some great insights, and we look forward to hearing from you in a few moments.
Thank you, President.
It was in August that the Prime Minister and I announced that the building sector would be overhauled in terms of its consent system. We wanted to tackle the understandable risk aversion that comes about affecting productivity, delaying the delivery of new homes, public buildings and commercial developments all around New Zealand. This will be achieved, addressing this risk aversion and so forth, by replacing the current joint and several liability model with a system of proportionate liability. Right now, councils can be hesitant to consent the projects New Zealand desperately needs because they risk being held fully liable even for defects that they did not cause. This can cost councils, and of course ultimately their ratepayers, millions of dollars. Under the current law, when several parties are involved in a mistake, a customer can pursue any one of them for the full cost of damages, no matter how much each party contributed. Councils can end up paying the entire bill, even if their role was only to sign off the work, because they're the only party that cannot ultimately declare insolvency. Proportionate liability fixes this. It ensures that companies, individuals and councils, as building consent authorities, only pay for the defective work for which they are responsible, creating a fairer, faster and more efficient system. When we announced this change, we said that we would then consider what protections building owners would need. We wanted input from the sector, and we have listened to the sector. Today, therefore, I am now able to set out those protections. First, we're introducing mandatory home warranties. These will apply to all new residential houses, apartment buildings up to 3 stories, and renovations valued at $100,000 or more. They will cover residential construction that involves what's called restricted building work and requires a building consent. All home warranty providers will need to register with the Ministry for Business, Innovation and Employment, being NB, meet clear minimum standards set out in regulation, and can be either guarantee or insurance based. Each warranty will include at least 1 year defect period and a 10-year structural warranty. This provides homeowners with confidence that they are protected if problems emerge in the years that follow the completion of their build, even if the builder has retired. Home warranty schemes are already available from various providers, and the sector has assured us that it can scale up to meet demand. Second, building design professionals, including architects, engineers, certain surveyors and other designers, will be required to hold professional indemnity insurance. Design is a key part of any project, of course, yet most warranties do not cover design work. Requiring insurance fills this gap, supports good practice across the sector, and ensures that these professionals can properly stand behind the work that they produce. Finally, we are increasing disciplinary penalties for licensed building practitioners. The LBP scheme is there to ensure competence and accountability, but the penalties have not been updated since 2007. With the move to proportionate liability, the Building Practitioners Board needs the ability to impose penalties that genuinely reflect the seriousness of poor behaviour. Maximum fines will double to $20,000, and the maximum suspension period will extend to 24 months. This supports the many trusted tradies who do things properly by showing that we're prepared to act when someone puts the reputation of the industry, including the many good practitioners, at risk. These measures will strengthen the government's shift to a faster and fairer consenting system, protect consumers, support skilled professionals, and ultimately make building in New Zealand easier and more affordable. This is important for all the communities around New Zealand. Here in the Mount Albert electorate, where I'm joined by my very good friend and colleague Melissa Lee, List MP based in this area for National, we know how important it is that our constituents and all New Zealanders have the ability to be protected in the event that things go wrong. They don't often go wrong, but sometimes they do, and that's why this protection is so important. I'll now hand over to Mr. Malcolm Fleming, who will speak more to the industry perspective on the changes. Thank you very much, and thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you. Morena, and thank you, Minister, for this announcement. It's a result of a lot of hard work and discussions stretching back to earlier this year, but we're thrilled with where we've gotten to. As far as the industry is concerned, this is an essential change, which we expect will have two major outcomes. Firstly, setting up the building industry for growth in the coming years, and secondly, setting up hold up the system, causing delays and unnecessary costs have been imposed on the homeowners. This move to proportional liability means that whoever's made a mistake is responsible for putting it right. It sounds simple enough, and it is. But the key to making it work is having an effective home warranties in place to protect the homeowner should a builder not be able or willing to rectify any issues that may arise. The good news is that there is a range of home warranty products already available here in New Zealand, and they're affordable. As an example, New Zealand Certified Builders Halo product covers 10 years for the homeowner and generally costs no more than 0.42% of the build price. In our view, home warranties are mandatories, and it is a wise move for another reason as well. Our industry has been plagued by cowboy builders, and they've without proper trade qualifications who come and they go, and they don't take responsibility for their work. I'm looking forward to this new system of leading to a weeding out of those sorts of operators. Poor building practices imposes too much risk on councils. They give the industry a bad name. It also causes a huge amount of stress to homeowners who just want to be able to enjoy their new build or the renovation. They want to be worrying about whether the job is up to scratch. They rightly expect that it will be up to scratch. So finally, thank you to the Minister for your leadership on this initiative, and thank you to all the MB officials who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Together, we've helped us deliver the most significant change to the building regulatory system in decades, and along with that, implement a change that industry has been calling for quite some time. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Great, now, call upon any questions that you may have, our friends from the Fourth Estate.
I guess any examples you have of councils are being hesitant or having to dish out money because of the current rules?
I mean, I hear such examples every day. I don't want to give street addresses and be too specific, but I think most New Zealanders would have had the experience or know someone who has had an experience whereby a rather baffling decision has been made, whether it's not to grant a consent or a large flurry of what are known as RFIs or requests for further information. And sometimes that reflects the fact that different councils have different interpretations of the same building code. That's something we're looking to address separately in the question of allowing them to consolidate their functions, but it also reflects the risk aversion that councils naturally feel on behalf of their ratepayers, which as ratepayers we should be thankful for, by the way, which is why we're moving to the proportionate liability so that they don't have that risk aversion that leads to some of these perverse outcomes and frankly anomalous stories of that which is approved on one side of the street but not on the other.
And I guess upping the penalties, are you confident that there's enough enforcement in place to dish out these new penalties?
Yeah, we think so. We think it's a suite of measures that make sense across the board. One is about the extent of the penalties, which is one of the points that we're announcing today. Another is ensuring that the Building Practitioners Board and the related trades boards, by the way, have the ability to enforce the occupational standards, the regulations, and also the ethics of those involved. And we think that it also makes sense in terms of meaning that people who are able to do the work have been backed by a guarantee scheme, for example, Halo, as offered by certified builders or one of the equivalents. And that's because On the flip side, if a building professional can't get the kind of guarantee or the warranty to back their work, then actually, to me, that's a red flag that they shouldn't be let loose on the home of a young couple or those looking to try and live, work and play in a structure in New Zealand. So we think it will have a helpful effect in terms of weeding out bad operators at that level as well.
So just a question on the home insurance mandatory, which is a big part of this announcement. Based on, if we do a calculation on, let's say, a $750,000 townhouse in Auckland, which is pretty average, and based on, let's say, 0.6% cost of the home insurance, that still comes to about $4,500 a year, which is quite a significant amount of money. And if I were to do the calculation on $1 million house, which is more like the average in Auckland, that number would even be higher, right? So $4,500 for $750,000 townhouse. Do you think it's fair to now for homeowners to have to, to pay this extra cost?
It's a really good.
To reduce council's, liability load. Do you think it's fair on homeowners, during cost of living crisis, in the current environment?
Yeah, it's a very astute question, if I may say, but there are several points that need to be made. One, we're paying at the moment already. There's a generalised cost that gets spread across all the ratepayers, and the effect is really that every man, woman and child is subsidising poor building practices. That's the first thing. The second thing is, in many cases, these insurance or warranty or guarantee schemes are actually already in place. So adding the relatively few additional operators needing professional indemnity insurance in terms of the designers, the architects, the building surveyors and so on, is a relatively small cost. And likewise for the warranties and the guarantees offered by, for example, Halo, by New Zealand certified builders. Again, it's a relatively little additional cost. And I would also just add, if I may, that the cost of defective building works when there is remediation or even demolition involved is huge. And that's something that has unfairly been falling upon a few who have been unlucky enough to contract a builder who hasn't had these protections in place.
Do we have any figures to illustrate how much cost the average ratepayer is actually bearing at the moment for these building defects?
Yeah.
How many ratepayers, how much of ratepayers actually, what is the invisible cost? Do we have any calculation?
Yeah, there have been such calculations made. I'm trying to recall exactly, and I'm not going to risk a dollar figure that's wrong now, but happy to come back to you. And that was part of our announcement a couple of months ago in August when the Prime Minister and I set out the cost as determined over the period of a decade. And, we're talking tens of millions of dollars. But there's another cost as well, which is hidden, which is the delays associated with building work that is held up through risk-averse consenting because of the joint and several liability. That add costs in a way that reflects, for example, $400 a day of every day of delay. You soon get to the $4,000 on your calculation, 0.6% on a $700,000 house on a 10-day delay for that, and after that you're winning even in economic terms. And if you think about 10 days worth of delays in terms of inspection and the consenting, you very quickly can get to that.
On the risk aversion aspect of councils, which you say is holding up the consenting process, we know that for a lot of the leaky buildings in Auckland, for example, the leaky apartments, some of that is also partly to do with councils' lax inspections or mistakes or negligence during their inspections. And we know that council teams, in terms of checking compliance and consents, they're pretty stretched at the moment. I think that's a known fact. Do you think with this joint liability, that could be a risk for council to be even more lax with their checks? Do you think that's a risk factor to be considered?
Well, the leaky homes crisis actually demonstrates perfectly why we do need proportionate liability. Too many bad operators in that phase were able to simply turn out their pockets and walk away. They would close down their building company or the development company, set up another one in a practice known as phoenixing, and they weren't held accountable. They didn't have to have the insurance or the warranty scheme or the design professional indemnity insurance to stand behind that. And that's precisely why homeowners and commercial building owners were left bereft, except to the extent that the ratepayer and long-suffering taxpayer also had to step in.
I guess my question is, are you confident that councils will continue, will still be able to do a great job of doing these checks without that negligence would be controlled, and that Are you confident that councils will still be able to do a good job of the checks, a
Yes.
strict job,
Yes.
given that now they will have less liability?
Yes.
I guess I'm asking that.
Yeah, very, very fair question again. And can I give you 3 reasons why? Number one, councils as building consent authorities have statutory obligations. Those are set out in law. Number 2, they get accredited as building consent authorities on the basis that they have the quality assurance practices in place and can demonstrate over the preceding 2 years and going into the next 2-year period for that accreditation that they have met those standards. And then the third point is that councils will remain still on the hook for the liability associated with their decisions. So they are part of the proportionate liability system. They do still issue a consent in the first instance. They will still conduct inspections and issue a code compliance certificate at the end. So they will have some share, but they won't have the full share.
On the professional indemnity insurance for engineers and architects, do we have a baseline of how many in this industry already actually have professional indemnity insurance, and how much difference will this make now to make that mandatory?
Yeah, the advice is that the vast majority do. I think that the number is north of 90%. So in terms of the remainder, obviously therefore less than 10% would need to come up to that standard. And I think that's a responsible thing for a practitioner in that space to do in any case. So I would be concerned if any are not able to obtain the necessary assurance to meet what is now going to be a legal requirement reflecting the vast majority of the practitioner's practice.
So is that 10% going to make that much of a difference? Because already 90% of them already have this professional indemnity insurance.
Yes, it will if you're in the 10% of people who have a building designed or surveyed or engineered by those who don't have it. So it's partly about protecting for that last 10%, but it's also providing the certainty, the consistency and the clarity and the confidence, therefore, in the system to know that your building has been designed, engineered and so on by someone who has that no matter what.
How did you land on the figures for extending suspension and also around the financial side of things? I mean, things have been doubled. Is that good enough?
Well, we'll certainly watch and see always, but we think as part of the suite of measures that it will be sufficient. Partly it's a signal. I mean, whether it's the new penalty or the old one, I can't imagine that any building professional would want to part with either $10,000 or $20,000. But it is a signal that we're taking seriously the issue of cowboy builders. You know, a minority though they may be, an important minority because they undermine the confidence in the system as a whole, as well as obviously affecting a handful of unlucky homeowners. So we're confident that it will, in conjunction with the other professional occupational regulatory changes we're making.
And just while I've got you, I've just got a few questions from the gallery, if that's okay.
Please.
To divert.
Of course.
So are some national MPs beginning to question whether Christopher Luxon is the best person to lead national?
No, they're not. The Prime Minister's working very hard, like we all are, to turn the country around, especially in terms of the economy, and we're starting to see those economic conditions improving. And relevant to building and construction, we've seen an increase in consent numbers recently, including on a seasonally adjusted basis. We're really confident that 2026 will be a great year for New Zealand for all the reasons of economic growth and frankly some of the hard work that's been put in that will now pay off over the next 12 months.
Does there need to be some change in the party to win a second term?
No.
And do you think Chris Bishop could do a better job of leading the country than Christopher Luxon?
No, I don't.
And just on this, I guess, does this put builders on the hook if they're using shoddy products as well?
Yeah, I mean, products is a place, obviously, we're also looking to reform the system. We want greater productivity, but also, the innovation and the improvements and the downward pressure on prices that can come when better building materials are used. We already have a large number of overseas building products used in this country, and we're improving and making clearer and more consistent the approval mechanism for that. And we think that that's part of the overall package of ensuring that we've got the accountability in conjunction with what's known as BEPA, Building Products Information Requirements, and those regulations taken together with the moves we're making will ensure that people have confidence in the products that they're using.
Yeah, and are you worried about, let's see, the Window and Glass Association kind of raised these fraudulent products are coming in and they're just, pretty much just making up these certifications. Are you worried about those slipping through and making it too complicated for these inspectors to catch these?
No, because these are two slightly different issues. I've engaged really carefully with that industry group. They make some really important points about gaps in the system that actually have persisted for years. The discussions we've had recently about ensuring that we don't have a few bad apples rotting in the barrel has been about making sure that we have greater enforcement and compliance measures than we've had historically. Actually, by having the building product information regime, we will improve that. But also, I'm really determined that we'll crack down hard on anyone who is acting in a fraudulent manner. I've asked them and anyone else who's aware of such situations, please let me know. We will pass those on to the authorities. MB is ready, willing and able to enforce appropriately the standards that we have, because that's important for the confidence of the whole system.
Minister, the Insurance Council has previously expressed that they may have some concerns around this new regime and they would like to talk to the government more about this new policy. Have you been having conversations with them, and what are you hearing from them?
Yeah, I've had a number of conversations with the Insurance Council. It's been a really constructive and helpful dialogue, some with me personally directly, but also MB have been really great at engaging with the sector, including entities like New Zealand Certified Builders and others in the sector, but also noting the importance of the insurers. Can I just share the one insight that they've had for us, which is that insurers don't want to get involved in standing behind work that is not high quality, and therefore their aims and their desire in terms of being prepared to stand by New Zealand's building work is the same as that of the government. Our interests are aligned, which we don't want Kiwis being left high and dry by poor quality building work, and that's why we're confident that with some of these other measures to ensure the professional discipline and regulation, that they will be more willing, not less, to step in, to play in the space, and by assuring a market through the compulsory requirement that building works that are restricted, over $100,000 worth of value and so forth, will mean that there is a reason for insurers to contemplate seriously getting even more involved in the New Zealand market.
So I'm not very clear about the details of professional indemnity insurance, but in the case that an architectural design company liquidates or phoenixes, is that usually covered by the indemnity insurance? Yeah, well, the devil is in the detail, clearly, but the point about professional indemnity insurance is professional goes to the work that's done, by the designer or, architect or other designer and so forth. The indemnity means that there is a putting back in a position that was no worse but for the defects. So from a homeowner's point of view, it's really important that we don't have a liquidation or other insolvency event that leaves them high and dry, and that's the significance of the indemnity insurance that we will be requiring them to take out. And if there are other questions, thank you again to my colleague and friend Melissa Lee for being in her patch and knowing how important it is to her constituents, as for mine and across the country, of course. These matters are so important for Kiwis and the world in which they live, work and play, as well as, of course, for the sector itself. Thank you very much, Malcolm Fleming, to you, New Zealand Certified Builders, and of course, your related scheme, Halo. We've got representatives here as well. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you also for engaging with us really closely. I've been determined that we listen to credible voices in the sector, including Malcolm and his team, because I know that by working together we can address some of these long-standing issues, and I'm really confident that today's announcement will mean that we are doing just that. Thank you.
Just one final comment. I've been in these sort of roles for about a decade now, and across that time it's always been a will with the industry. Why don't we break joint and several and move to proportional? Previous ministers have tried this to no avail. It's been quite a courageous piece of leadership from the minister and the regulator working with them, and to see this pass is quite a big deal for the industry.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Great. Thanks, team. Appreciate you being here.